morning. Thank you for having me today. It's been really good so far, and I'm excited. There's a lot more people in the room this afternoon than there was this morning. So, good afternoon. I want to talk to you about how to manage stress, because stress affects every aspect of our lives. It affects our bodies, our minds, our mental health, our relationships. It affects our productivity at work, everything. I believe that if we can learn to manage stress effectively, we will achieve unprecedented human progress. We will ease the burden off our healthcare system. We will be proactive with our health. We will live longer, more enjoyable lives. But stress is at an all-time high for pretty much everyone. So much so that when I ask people if they're stressed, they usually say no. They're so used to being under stress that they don't realize the toll it's taking on their bodies and on their relationships. When I dig a little bit deeper, ask more questions, I can see how far-reaching the effects of stress go. Stress is associated with poor sleep, with chronic illness like irritable bowel, heart disease, and cancer. Stress in relationships at home and at work lead to heartache, breakups, and sick leave. We are in a stress crisis in our society right now. So what's the answer? How do we manage stress? Get rid of our kids? Our partners? Quit our jobs and drink margaritas on the beach all day? Finding the answers to how to manage stress has been my obsession since I spent my time in the military as a pharmacy officer. Here's a picture. Oh, yeah. When you're in the military, stress is a given. You literally get injured by stress. They call that operational stress injury, and it's defined as psychological difficulties resulting from operational duties. I think we all have operational stress injuries to some degree. I've since retired from my military service, and now I'm a health and relationship coach, getting my master's degree in counseling psychology. I feel very lucky to be sharing my passion with you today. You see, it's my mission in life to help people heal from their stress injuries, operational or otherwise. The reason I want to help people manage and heal their stress injuries is because calm people are happier and healthier. Healthier people are more productive. Happy people contribute to making society better for everyone, for the environment, for future generations, and mainly for themselves, because this is the one life we get to live. And like it or not, we're in this together. Stress in the body is caused by a few different things. Specifically, trauma, fatigue, grief, and moral injury. These can be physical or psychological, emotional or spiritual, even institutional. Events can trigger stress, but so can memories. Thoughts and beliefs can trigger stress in the body. When the body is stressed, it's activated. The sympathetic nervous system kicks adrenaline and cortisol into gear. When your foot is always on the gas, the processes that occur when your body is relaxed can't be maintained. These are processes like your immune system, sleep, proper digestion, sexual health. Your hormone balance is all out of whack. This causes issues with your skin, makes you more prone to colds and infections, gives you heartburn, thyroid problems, trouble regulating your blood sugar and blood pressure. Not to mention the mental health issues it can cause, like anxiety and depression. In order for your body to be able to relax, rest, and repair itself, we need to take our feet off the gas. We need to treat trauma. This can even be trauma that occurred in childhood. Trauma that is still activated in our nervous systems today. We need to relearn how to relax and calm our fatigued bodies and minds. We need to fully grieve our losses and find compassion and forgiveness. We need to look at our moral values and see which values we're not prioritizing that are actually very important to us. Values like intimacy and depth in our relationships, authenticity, honesty, quality time, appreciation, all the things that really matter to us, all of the love languages. We can sum all of this up in two simple words: self-awareness. In my estimation, the only way to heal trauma, grief, fatigue, and moral injury is to strengthen self-awareness. Have you ever asked yourself or somebody else why they just did what they did? Did you or they reply with, I don't know. I don't know why I opened the fridge instead of the microwave. I don't know why I said that. I don't know why I have road rage. I don't know why I can't seem to get along with that person. I don't know is an indication that the subconscious mind is in control. When the subconscious mind is in control, we don't know why we're behaving in certain ways. We may rationalize with stories, with excuses or explanations. But does anyone here really know why they have road rage? Road rage can be defined as a physical response due to someone else's driving. I know I've felt it before. To me, it feels like molten fire that starts in my belly and quickly rises up into my chest and my throat. Everything tightens. My heart races. I start to sweat. I feel angry. Well, I feel rage. I get activated. It's a stress response. And you could say it's all because of the other driver, but let's admit it's a tiny bit of an overreaction. Most of the time, the other driver has no idea they're crossing into my lane, cutting me off. It was an accident, carelessness on their behalf. Can you imagine, though, if someone actually got into their car intending to be a road rage inducer? Specifically, they get into their car, they get into behind the steering wheel, and they're like, yeah, who can I make ragey today? Most people aren't doing that. There might be a few, but for the most part, they're not doing it on purpose. But none of that is going through my mind when I'm raging. My subconscious is in control. My prefrontal cortex, the conscious part of my brain in charge of executive function, is offline. But there are ways to make the subconscious conscious. We can become more self-aware. Let's continue using road rage as an example, really getting to the bottom of the trauma being expressed here. I want to show you how strong the mind-body connection really is. So someone cuts you off. Right now, imagine it's happening. What do you feel? Take a minute and imagine the last time you got cut off in traffic. Just by thinking about it, are you starting to remember how it felt? The sensations that come up in your body? The heat, the tightness, maybe even a little bit of anger? That right there is the power of the mind-body connection. Even the memory of the event is activating your body. Right now, as you're sitting here in this fancy room, no drivers in sight. This is the beginning of self-awareness. Now you have a conscious realization of what it feels like to be triggered. The warning bells that go off just before you're about to overreact. And how do we know you're overreacting? Because it doesn't logically make sense to be that angry at somebody who accidentally cut you off. But it does make us angry, doesn't it? Why? Because your subconscious mind is interpreting it as a boundary violation. A boundary violation. Yes, literally, this idiot is crossing into your territory. My driving space is being violated. Like, honestly, how dare they? Boundary violations are serious to the human psyche. We need good boundaries to have a good sense of self, including self-image and self-esteem. When others cross our boundaries, either physically, emotionally, or otherwise, it's upsetting to our sense of sovereignty. Most of us have had our boundaries violated, especially when we were kids, and we carry that trauma into adulthood. We use anger to protect ourselves, our self-image, and our self-esteem, especially when someone is crossing into our lane. Boundaries are a good thing. We need to express boundaries in effective ways, but most of us haven't been shown how to do that. So maybe we get explosively angry. Maybe we get passive-aggressive. Maybe we go numb, or we use vices to numb out. We can have all sorts of coping mechanisms. In order to stay calm and collected when someone crosses your boundary, you have to have a few skills in your back pocket. Again, these skills fall under the umbrella of self-awareness, but let's go a little bit deeper today. The first step is having self-awareness about the sensations in your body. The second step is knowing how these sensations translate into emotions. This leads to the third step, which is developing your emotional intelligence. And the fourth step is noticing the thoughts and belief patterns that come up to explain your emotions. This requires doing some self-inquiry on if those belief patterns are indeed realistic to this moment. Let's go through an example. It'll be fun. You can consider this a guided meditation if you want. It'll be fun, I promise. Just participate. So, picture this. You're at a wedding, sitting at the head table. Your best friend in the world is about to get married, and you're waiting to deliver your toast. You didn't really prepare for this toast because you figured you could just wing it and speak from the heart, but now you're regretting that choice just a little bit, because the MC is really funny, he's well prepared, he seems to be a natural at public speaking, and you're starting to feel activated. Probably kind of how I'm feeling right now. What sensations in your body are you feeling in this moment? Imagining the scenario. Think in terms of temperature, texture, expansion, contraction, movement. Maybe there's a tightening in your solar plexus, a little bit in your throat, heat in your cheeks, a fluttering in your belly. Try to observe these sensations neutrally. It's hard to observe them neutrally because we immediately want to put a story on top of the sensations, give them a name, maybe even try to identify the emotion. I feel nervous. I feel excited. What I want you to recognize in this moment is that nervous and excited actually do feel very similar, don't they? They are feelings of anticipation, yet the sensations themselves are the same. The only difference is the story we overlay on top of the sensation. If we're telling ourselves a story of negative anticipation, of failure, of potential embarrassment, we say we feel nervous. If we're telling ourselves a story of positive anticipation, of hope, of pleasure, of success, we say we feel excited. Yet the sensations themselves are neutral. And that doesn't mean they're not real, they're very real. But the way we interpret them is subjective. The way we interpret them can either lead to joy or suffering. The way we interpret them is a skill we can develop. This is why positive people are scientifically proven to be happier and healthier. And not the fake kind of happy, authentically happy and joyful. They've figured out a way to tell themselves stories about their sensations that not only feel good in the moment, but also keep their bodies calm. Happy people have trained themselves to interpret their sensations as excitement, or to understand that that nervous, jittery feeling doesn't automatically mean worst-case scenario, or that they can actually handle a worst-case scenario. Worst-case scenario in this wedding situation is that I trip, I fall, all my clothes weirdly rip off, I dump my drink on myself, totally bomb the speech, and just get stared at in silence. Kind of like what you're doing right now. Or I might just stumble through a heartfelt, semi-heartfelt speech and be done with it. The point is, nature works in positive feedback loops and cycles. We perceive a threat, feel a sensation, interpret that sensation, perceive more threat, feel more sensation, label it as the emotion of anxiety, and call it a day. If we have self-awareness, we can slow down the cycle and see what's really going on. We can see how our thoughts are feeding into that loop, driving more stress hormones to be created in our bodies. Like I said, a lot of these belief patterns and perceptions that lead to stress in the body are subconscious. We are not aware of how deeply they are programmed into us and how they drive our behavior. But if you listen carefully, observe yourself, slow down, and take the time to really feel your sensations, they will help ground you into the present moment. If anyone's ever been to a yoga class, you know the teachers like to tell you to breathe deeply and ground into the present moment. They want you to tune into your body and listen. And this isn't just so that they look like enlightened and bendy yogis. It's because it helps relax your body so you can build self-awareness. And when you build self-awareness, you can more easily relax your body. You see the feedback loop here again. It's not just new age mumbo jumbo, it's actually practical. Breathing in and of itself is a natural cycle, like day and night, the phases of the moon, the changing of the seasons, life and death, cycles, circle of life, Lion King stuff. But it's not just in and out, night and day, or life and death. It's in, out, in. Day, night, day. Life, death, life. It's not linear or binary, it's circular. Breathing is a pattern. Check in with your breathing pattern right now. Are you able to take full, deep breaths? Or are you shallow breathing? Have you ever watched a baby sleep? Their little bellies fill up with air as they breathe. That's fully relaxed breathing. Stressed breathing is shallow and tight. It affects your diaphragm, which affects your transverse colon and your pelvic floor. So shallow breathing is linked to IBS, chronic pain, and PMS symptoms. It can cause causes a feedback loop in your nervous system, telling your body that you're still under perceived duress, even if you're not in actual danger in this moment. So let's come back to this concept of being in the present moment, of presence. Raise your hand if you see the value in being present. Pretty much everybody. If you don't, that's fine, no judgment. I know for me, I don't want to miss out on my life. I want to be as present as possible for it. I want to be fully engaged and enjoy laughing, tickling, and giggling with my 18-month-old nieces. I want to give my clients my full, undivided attention, as if they're the most precious, brilliant, inspiring individuals in the world, because they are. I want to feel flow state and purpose in my work, which requires presence. I want to fully enjoy my limited time I have with my aging fur babies and with my parents. I want to notice the beauty and complexity of nature when I'm out walking. I want to help co-create health in our society, so that we're not all walking around like anxious, depressed, chronically ill zombies, draining our precious healthcare system. I want to help fix the planet for my nieces. To do any of these things, I have to be present. I have to be self-aware. I have to understand why I act the way I act and what is driving me. I have to clean up my act, help my body relax so that it can repair itself, which it can. Nature is intelligent and mysterious. The mind-body connection is powerful. The placebo effect accounts for up to 30% of treatment success, even in seemingly mindless interventions like cholesterol medication. Our minds are powerful. Our bodies even more so. I'll wrap up now, but I want to stress a few things. I'll give you a second. Stress? Okay, fine. No pun intended. If you take anything away from this talk, please remember this one key thing. It's a quote from psychoanalyst Carl Jung. He said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate." Self-discovery and self-awareness are healing. It heals trauma. It soothes grief. It allows for rest and peace. It realigns injuries caused by moral dilemmas, which the military calls operational stress injury. There are ways we can manage stress and heal our operational stress injuries. When we slow down, when we take inventory of what's really important to us, when we breathe deeply and teach our bodies it's okay to relax, when we allow the natural cycles of life, death, and rebirth to occur, especially when it comes to our egos. when we notice and observe the sensations that come up in our bodies, and the stories we create around those sensations and emotions, when we develop our emotional intelligence, self-compassion, and forgiveness, when we change the stories by gently questioning if they're really true for us in this present moment, when we train ourselves to be here now, not in the future, not in the past, not in the addiction to busyness, but here, now, where all the juicy life is. By making the unconscious conscious, we are becoming self-aware. We are creating our own fate. Thank you.